Anthony the Genius Romero.
Anthony the Genius Romero making his way to the cage, and he is set and ready to take on Sean Felton, the next big thing out in this area. I tell you what, Sean Felton has been on a rise. He has taken out every single one of his opponents. But Anthony Romero is no stranger to taking out his opponents as well, so this is a very tough one.
Standing 5 feet 11 inches tall, official weight at even 156 pounds. This modern vision and parabellum MMA fighter has a professional record of 1 victory, no defeats. Ladies and gentlemen, from Welland, Ontario, Canada, presenting Anthony the Genius Romero.
Joining me today is special guest Anthony the Genius Romero. How's it going today, Anthony?
I'm doing alright, how are you?
Not too bad. So today Anthony is going to help us break down UFC 241.
Yeah, so we're going to start off breaking down the fights. Of course, we're going to start off with Paulo Costa versus Yoel Romero. Moving on to Nate Diaz and Anthony Pettis. And the main event, probably the biggest fight of the year, Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic for the World Heavyweight title.
So what are your thoughts on the very first fight?
The first fight, Yoel Romero versus Paulo Costa. Yoel Romero representing the country of Cuba, training in Miami currently. Paulo Costa representing Brazil. For this fight, I believe Yoel Romero has the advantage because of his Olympic caliber wrestling. Both guys are kind of even with the cardio department. They tend to wear off in the later rounds. Paulo Costa has probably the advantage in the striking, so it'll be an interesting match. I could see this fight going to decision, and in the later rounds, both guys kind of dying down with their gas tank. And yeah, but it should be an interesting fight. Both guys super muscular. Which means that their body will require a lot more oxygen, and yeah.
The second fight we're breaking down today is Anthony Pettis versus Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz coming off a long layoff with his last fight against Conor McGregor. I think, in my opinion, that'll hurt him a little bit. Anthony Pettis moving up to welterweight, fighting welterweight, right?
Yeah, he fought welterweight against Wonder Boy. He won by knockout in his last fight, which is pretty rare for Anthony Pettis lately. He was coming off a huge losing streak before that fight. He is the former lightweight champion. And yeah, this will be an interesting fight because Nate Diaz is known for a striker, as well as Pettis. Both guys are pretty even in the grappling department. I would give it a slight edge for the wrestling for Anthony Pettis. And I would give the advantage for cardio-wise to Nate Diaz. Even coming off that layoff, I know that Diaz is always training. He's always competing in triathlons, a lot of bike riding, a lot of running. So that'll give him the slight advantage. But overall, I believe Pettis will have the win in that, but it'll be a tough decision, especially in the halfway through the second round and the third round.
And last but not least, Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic for the main event. Can you give us your thoughts on that, Anthony?
Yeah, so both fighters are great. Stipe Miocic holding the record for longest heavyweight title defenses, that being 3, I believe. And DC, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. It'll be a tough match for Stipe coming off that knockout in the last fight, as well. Stipe coming off a long layoff, about a year since his last fight, and that being against Daniel Cormier, who he lost the title to. So that will be an interesting fight. Both guys are wrestlers, but DC has the advantage still in that, as he is an Olympic wrestler, which is totally different from college wrestling. And yeah, DC, he's been known for his cardio. He knows when to push, so he's no slouch in that area. So that'll be a great fight. I can see this as well going to decision. If it is a finish in the first round, that'll be awesome.
And do you think this is the last time we'll be seeing Daniel Cormier?
I believe so. I think that's the hardest part for a fighter is to know when to finish. He's done so many great things, holding 2 titles at once, just so many defenses, and he's been a great part of the UFC. I know he has a lot of things going on outside the UFC. He's a commentator for the UFC. He also has wrestling camps and a lot of things going outside of that. So I believe that it is a good time, probably the best time for him to retire, and that is especially if he does win this fight. There's not much out there other than the John Jones fight that I know a lot of people want to see, but I know he doesn't have much to prove, and I believe it's time for him to take this win and ride off in the sunset.
And what are your official picks for all 3 fights that we just broke down?
So, first fight, my pick is Yoel Romero. How can you not go with the Romero? That is my pick for that one. Second fight is Anthony Pettis. I believe he will squeak out a decision. And last but not least, my man DC. I have him winning that again by decision. I know all these decisions sound pretty boring, but I feel like the fights are going to be really exciting. If my predictions are wrong, then that'll be even better. So who do you have?
My 3 picks are starting with also Yoel Romero. I'll say he'll finish it in the first round. He's a pretty good striker. We'll see where that goes. And the second fights, Anthony Pettis versus Nate Diaz. I'll take Showtime Pettis. We'll say decision. And the main events, I'll be taking Stipe. Hopefully he'll take that title back.
Awesome. I really appreciate you having me on your breakdown segment of on Behind the Grind, and I look forward to breaking down more fights with you.
Yeah, that's my pleasure. And that's all we have today for you folks. We'll see you on episode 2.